Hopefully it'll be another month.
Oh, it will not. I'm ready to go.
Well,
Oh, excuse me, sir.
it's a lucrative
Did y'all suggest any
Be
time?
in a minute.
I did not. If you want to ask Karen, I will be glad to do that. Chief Roddy today is wearing a coat and tie, and I accused him of being a lawyer. He is not here.
It's gonna take 2 seconds. It's gonna take 2 seconds.
Are we going to, hey, Phil,
Yes, sir.
can you explain to the audience, because there's some here, the short version, the short version of the, MOU?
Trying to get the street projects out. Right? Could be a meter, right? Yes.
Okay, that's item M. Okay, yeah.
We haven't put those transportation today? No, okay,
That was
so-
last week.
So when, I guess, we get to that point.
Sure. Which would be in about 2 seconds. No, everything's read in the record. Everything is related to planning, which was read in last week. So that's the only thing we addressed. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday's January 14th, 2020 agenda session. I now call us to order. Can I have a motion to approve the minute? Okay. It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposed is nay. Motion carries. Madam Clerk, items on final reading, A, B, and C has already been read into the records. Now we move on to ordinances on first reading. B, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G has already been read into the record. Resolutions 7G, H, I, J, K, L, and M has been read into the record, but we have a light. Vice Chairman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At our 1:30 and attorney-client privilege meeting, we had an understanding, I guess, of the memorandum of agreement on this item M, on the Chattanooga transfer agreement. And I would like for the attorney, Mr. Attorney, to explain a little bit to those that are here about that, and then the action that we're going to actually take tonight, or the action that will be taken on this item, so we'll all have a better understanding.
Yes, sir. Based on the discussion which came before this body last week, there was a resolution that had been placed on the agenda here authorizing the administrator of the Department of Public Works to renew an agreement with Chattanooga Transfer. In our review of this, we determined that there was originally a resolution number 28798 that was adopted by the Chattanooga City Council on September the 27th, 2016, which approved an amendment to the agreement and with that corporation. And it was dealing with a contract that was originally approved in January 2025. That amendment to the agreement provided that there would be renewal under amendment number 2 after a 3-year term. And it is my legal opinion at this point in time that that contract provides for renewal on 3-year terms until 2028. And the contract may essentially only be terminated for cause resulting for poor performance. And even then, the corporation has the right to correct the behavior before the contract is terminated, or that is the problem with the agreement is at this point. At this point, the city did not give any notification prior to the end of the first third-year term that the vendor was acting inappropriately, and it's my opinion that the contract is rolled over and it doesn't need to be voted on by the city council at this time.
And as far as action that we're going to take on this item, is this a action that you can just remove, or do we need to just withdraw it at 6 o'clock.
It would be my request that this item be removed, item M, this evening, and I'll make that same statement this evening.
Through council action.
Yes, sir.
That we would withdraw
Well,
it.
at the request of your attorney to withdraw that section. Yes, sir.
Attorney action. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's it, Mr. Vice Chair?
That's it.
Okay, thank you, sir. That concludes this portion of our agenda session. We will now move on to departmental report, Human Resources. Human Resources, not planning. Don't go, don't go.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again for the opportunity to come to present the HR report and updates for you today. One of the areas that we're going to focus on for our report is going to be the council's expectations of HR. And so the report will focus on a couple of those items based on your expectations. And for those who are unaware, the expectations for human resources is that we recognize that our city employees are our greatest asset and that we promote the fair and equitable treatment of them. And so ways that we can do that is by removing barriers to achievement and success. So again, tonight, I'll present a couple of those items or ways that HR is working to meet your expectations. First of all is our compensation study. In July 2019, we launched the compensation study for positions within the city, and so I'd like to just give you a brief update as to where we are as of right now. The study represented 400 plus job titles and positions that excuse me, that information was collected from some peer organizations, which represents about 26 jurisdictions in the Southeast, as well as using some of the published research data that represents local, region, and national jobs. Based on that particular study, if you're asking how many of our jobs or how many people were in those positions, again, I mentioned 1,200, but those jobs represented 80 particular jobs. We had about 649 employees that represented those areas, of which 547 are considered non-exempt, and 102 of those positions are exempt. The preliminary results, based on our salaries, compared to the 50th percentile of the market, and when I say market, I'm referencing our sister organizations or other city jurisdictions, as well as the private sector. And based on that information, about 31 of our jobs are below the market's 50th percentile or the median. And we have 2 jobs that are above. There will be some more specific details that will come out here shortly that this council will be privy to understanding, taking a deeper dive into what that represents for the city. I'm sorry, thank you. Back one slide, please. Thank you. So the next steps from the compensation study, we are working with Gallagher, who's the vendor that deployed the compensation study on our behalf, to finalize our job grades as well as the compensation plan. In addition to that, through that finalization, we are looking at the cost options that we'll be including the cost options so that we could have discussions about what to approve relative to our new pay structure and also the determining the timeline for implementation. So all of those 3 points will be a part of the details that you'll receive here shortly. One of the other ways that we are removing barriers to achievement and success is by creating meaningful opportunities for citizens with disability. I've presented on this particular area to you before, but I wanted to just really to acknowledge the work that has been done here. The city has partnered with Orange Grove, and through that partnership this year, we have 41 volunteers that serve in 8 of our department. That represents 2,700 plus volunteer hours. One of the other goals that we have is that we have that we would have a volunteer in each of the other departments. So by the end of the year, our hopes is that we'll have an additional volunteer in 5 other departments. One of the culminating points for our work in this area, while it's taken the involvement of the city departments across the city, departments across the city, as well as many people stepping up. But Sonia Fears, who works in our HR department, she actually leads this program. And on behalf of the city, she was named Volunteer Partner of the Year this year for all of the effort that the city has contributed to working with people with disabilities. In regards to our HR performance, this is just to wrap up the results of items that HR has been using to measure our performance. These are the performance measures, are measures that are presented through Chattanooga, and we report on those. Two of the areas may be familiar to you. Of course, our time to fill. That particular area, we are definitely exceeding our target of 25 or less days in order to fill a position. The second item, first year service turnover rate, that is a new item this year. We wanted to look at the number of people that come into the city but leave within the first year of service. And when we looked back at past data, our target was established from that past data where it was 18%. So we want to do better than the prior year's target. So as of today, we're not quite there. We're at 22.2%. And again, we just started measuring this particular item within the last 2 months. Also, our vacancy rate, that particular number represents the number of unfilled positions based on those that are approved by the city. And our target for this year is 5%. Right now, we're at 9.1%. And of course, our quarterly incident rate, target at 7, the results year to date is 8.2. So that concludes my report for council. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Councilman Ledford, followed by Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Chairman. Beverly, I do have a couple questions. Do you mind rolling back to the first slide?
The first.
The second slide.
Yes, sir.
Third slide. There we go.
Okay.
Can you explain for everyone why the sworn fire and police classifications are excluded from this so we understand a little bit better?
Sure. In regards to the sworn classifications, they were included, their pay plan was implemented several years prior. And as of right now, the plan for the general pay positions, those are ones that we're needing to, we're due for a reevaluation. Now, while the sworn is not included in this overall study, what we are doing for sworn is they're up for review. So every 3 years after a plan is implemented, we have to continue to review those particular positions to ensure that they're in alignment. And so Gallagher will be working with us to do the 3-year review for the sworn positions.
Will we have a comprehensive or combined data after that particular action takes place so that we can understand better, I guess, holistically, what the compensation study revealed?
Yes. You are asking that relative to the general pay plan, correct?
ma'am.
Yes, you will have that.
Okay. The turnover number of 22% so far, do we have a determining factor of why that is occurring, or have we been able to pinpoint any kind of specifics?
Currently, we don't have enough data. We just started tracking that number, or a recent number. We just started tracking it about 2 months ago. So we don't have enough data that we could definitively say this is the cause of that turnover. So right now, when you look at that number, people are leaving for different reasons. Now, granted, I could speculate based on some feedback, but we don't have anything that would be definitive that I could share at this point.
I'm assuming pay is probably in there somewhere, but,
Well,
I mean, we're in a good economy.
Yes, but
Unemployment
pay-
rates are low and competition is high.
I will say this now, some of the roles, granted, people leave because of pay, but the majority that we're seeing so far, sometimes people accept roles and they don't quite realize what the role is, and so it's a little bit different than what they had indicated, and so the feedback from their exit interviews has indicated that. So we have several that's like that.
Okay, final question, Mr. Chairman. That number is just really interesting to me, based on several determining situations that I think I'd like to get some more information on it at some
Sure.
point as we move along with this. But do you know, have we been able to compare that to other sister cities like Knoxville or?
We have. I have that data. Now, I don't have the numbers. I don't know the numbers offhand, but we do have that data, yes.
Sure, if you have it, I'd like to see it. I don't know about my
Okay.
colleagues, but I think it would be interesting to kind of digest and review.
Okay,
Very good.
definitely.
Thank you for your presentation.
All right,
All
thank
right,
you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Council Ledford covered my question on the turnover rate, but I have one additional one. I think it's the next slide, Beverly? No, not that one for sure. Keep going back. Well, it's all right. We'll get there in a minute. It's the one, this one. There we go. 31 city jobs have salaries significantly below market for comparable jobs, and 2 city jobs above the market.
Yes.
So of the total number of jobs that were on one of the earlier slides, we've only got 33 that we have reported on here. Do you know what level jobs these are within the city? For example, does this also include department heads? Does it include executive level, higher level administrators? Does it include all those positions that are also considered significantly below market, or is this a particular sector of our employment where they?
It represents all of our positions. However, the 31 that's referenced here, the majority are not administrators or executive roles.
Okay, so these would be,
Could be, there's a mixture of non-exempt roles, majority non-exempt.
okay, do you happen to know what the, say, average salary or high salary is for these 31 jobs that it's showing are significantly below?
Not at this point. We have the data, but we can't compare, those 31 jobs are uniquely different. So to answer your question, I wouldn't have the definitive answer, but you will have it once we have the report. You get the detailed report, yes.
That would be great, because I'm very much interested to know where our majority of our problem lies and what level of salary ranges that we're having these issues in that definitely need to be looked at.
Okay, understand.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Burrs.
Thanks, Beverly. When you're talking about 31 city jobs, those are titles, right?
Yes, that is
Not
correct.
people.
That is correct.
Yeah. It's interesting that your answer to one of my colleagues about salary, there's a lot of research that shows that salary obviously is important, but job satisfaction is more important.
Absolutely.
It's interesting. So are we addressing the job satisfaction issue?
We will be. Now, I don't have definitive data on it. So as an example, for the last year and a half, part of the foundation that we have been building is to, one, start collecting information so that we could identify where we have opportunity at, but also with the programs that we have employed. The goal of those is to increase engagement as well as change the culture. And so we would have it
Right.
probably for in the future, but I don't have a definitive number that I can
Okay,
give
and I
you
think
now.
that gets to be very important since it really rates higher
Absolutely.
than salary. Go to the slide about your goals.
Let's see, you said the goals, right? Here?
So time to fill here, the target is less than 45 days?
Yes.
What are you talking about? Because that's still a long time. Do you have something in mind?
Yes, so as an example, from the point that a job is requisitioned, when the process starts, all the way until an offer is extended, we're looking at our goal of being less than 45 days. Now, in terms of average, and I'm going to say industry and just average from in the HR community world, 70 to 75 has been the average, and so we've been doing better than that. But we want to, this particular number, we established it based off of some of our results previously, and so for the coming year in fiscal year '21, we will be reducing that down as well.
All right,
Getting better.
if I may, 75 to fill, what are the variables that are in there?
Well,
Because
I'm not sure I
we
understand
lose
what you're
people
asking.
because it takes too long to
Well,
hear.
a part of that, so as an example, when we start the process in terms of the requisitioning, and I'm going to say once the job is posted, of course, there's days that we have to ensure that we have enough people that have applied, the screening through those applications, as well as, so the screening through to ensure that we have people that are meeting the requirements, and then the interview process. And sometimes that's a little bit lengthy. And then from there, of course, we extend the offer. But depending on a person's negotiation or their ability to, if they're employed, they may want to give us a couple of weeks' notice. So there's several different things that are
Okay.
in there that we factor into this equation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Chairman. I apologize for the follow-up question, but seeing the information, this brings to mind quite a few questions, but I'm just going to ask this one kind of on a really generic level.
Okay.
This information that we have now, that we have this data, is this going to be provided to our department heads? And do we anticipate an impact in the budgeting process that we're about to see?
Are you referencing to the performance measures? Yes, so these performance measures, every month when we have our Chattanooga meeting, each department has these goals, and so these are shared as well as the details behind them during those, and we discuss them during those meetings.
Okay, and this might be a question directed to Mara. Will we know in the BFO process, when we see the budget, will the department heads be able to identify, so we can mark a discrepancy that this information has shown us, so that we know that the study did either a good job for us or did something for us that is beneficial to helping our city take care of its employees? Does that make sense?
It sounds like you're asking about the comp study as opposed to this
I am.
vacancy.
I'm sorry, I am.
That's right.
Mhm.
Yes, so, yes.
Will there be identifiable markers that council, as we're looking through there, if we're looking for an increase or in your budget, is there a way to mark that so that we could say, hey, that study did a good job? Or that
Yes.
study had an impact, a good impact or a negative impact, whatever. Is there a way to do that?
Yes, there will be, as the study is released. And so right now, if your first question to Beverly was about the data being released to the department heads was about the comp study and not these vacancy rates?
It was, yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Then that is not going in Chattanooga. They don't have it yet. None of
They
us have
don't.
it yet.
Okay. So
And
we
I'm gonna-
won't actually see that in this upcoming budget, a reflection of it.
Well, I'm going to let Beverly answer that because she's been working with Gallagher one-on-one, so
Okay.
she can give us a better idea on the timeline.
Sure.
So you will be able to see that data. Right now, this Friday, I'll have more details about what those, I'll call them the options for implementations are, because of course, as you know, we've asked Gallagher to give us 3 different options based on the data, the compensation study. And those 3 options will depend on what philosophy we take. So as an example, if the city wants to be the most competitive and pay the highest wages, I'm just making that up as an example, there would be an option of how we would employ something like that. But of course, our plan is not to be the leading edge. We do want to be competitive, and we will also want that to be total compensation to include benefits. So they're going to give us different options. The total price, and here's how we could implement it. Also, if we are looking at phasing in over a couple of years and targeting a certain number of positions, they'll give us options for that as well. So based on that information, and once the city makes a decision which option we're going to adopt, then we'll start deploying that so the department, so you should be able to see that based on whatever that strategy is, based on department information.
Okay, so we may or may, I'm trying to determine whether or not this data is going to be useful in the upcoming budget, or does it get filed to a website and we just kind of know what it is?
No,
Does that make sense?
it won't, no, you will be able to see it because not only are we talking dollars, we're also talking positions and making sure that people are in the right roles and that they're titled correctly and we know what they're doing. Some of this could impact exemption status, whether they're non-exempt or exempt. So we will see that will not be filed away, because based off of the option that we employ, we will have a completely different pay structure, so all of those things would be very visible.
Okay, and we'll look forward to hearing more on the impacts of this data from your next HR report, I'm assuming.
Yes, probably before then.
Very good. All right, I'm excited. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Ledford. Seeing no other lights, thank you for your report.
All right, thank you.
Yes, and the work you do for our city. It's
Thank you.
outstanding.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. That concludes this part of our HR departmental report. We will now move on to our Youth and Family Development Committee. That'll be Councilwoman Chair Coonrod.
Can I get approval? Okay, so today we're gonna have the presentation, YFD Committee Coach.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the council, good afternoon. It gives me an opportunity to share with you a project that we've been working on going into our schools and assisting the Opportunity Zone high schools, the Howard and the Brainerd school, and a process that we are helping them move forward with some of the challenges that they face as far as getting students in college. And our effort to address second-generation poverty, helping these individuals realize the importance of pursuing higher education or some type of vocational training will better position them for income increase and upward mobility. And this part of the mayor's economic mobility strategy to help young people that's in that generation of poverty cycles realize they have an opportunity to improve as well. So this is a resource guide that we've put together to take to the schools and talk to them about how to access the funding and resources. As many of you may know, our guidance counselors are swamped and challenged in our schools, and they don't always have the opportunity to get to every child to help them realize what they need to do in preparation for college. So we're trying to do everything we can to assist those schools and to keep children from falling through the cracks where they might. And this resource guide, putting it in the hands of each one of those graduating seniors in those opportunity zones, will help this child realize what they need to do step by step, even if they didn't have parents or guidance counseling or teachers or any adult really walking them through the process, that they still could take advantage of the step-by-step guide that Youth and Family has developed for them to use. The first thing we try to do is help them realize why it's important. And based on national research, children or young adults who pursue college or some type of vocational training and get certified or receive some higher education, that they better position themselves for economic mobility and position themselves for higher paying jobs, and we're trying to expose them through this process. So when we talk to them, we help them understand the importance of it and then begin to give them some resources, the guides that's necessary, and whatever it is that they need to have so they can be better equipped when it comes to dealing with the FAFSA. We have FAFSA days in the schools, and we have FAFSA opportunities in our centers, and we work with our staff to try to get them better equipped to explain to these students the importance of what they need to have, such as their Social Security, their registration number, if they are not a U.S. citizen, the federal income taxes, bank statements, records of untaxed income, and these type of things is very important when you're filling out the FAFSA, so you can process what you're doing a lot faster. Then we try to expose them to what is easier to get and what's local, and we talk to them about the local opportunities such as UTC, Chattanooga State, the apprentice programs that's right in our neighborhood, to try to expose them to how to apply for the Pell Grants, the Hope Scholarships, the Tennessee Assistance Awards Program, and then the new program that's out, the UT Promise, which starts this fall, 2020. After exposing them to that, we educate them and talk to them about what grants are, what's the difference between a grant and a loan, and encourage them to try as much as possible to stay away from the student loans unless absolutely necessary if those grants and doesn't supply them enough money to pursue their education. Then we expose them, talk to them about how to approach the colleges that they're interested in about work-study programs once they get to the college campuses. If they're not aware of the work-study programs, they won't take advantage of it. But if you know what to do and know who to contact, you can take advantage of those work-study programs and get paid for part-time jobs as you go to school, and also put money in your pocket in terms of subsidizing your income. We expose them on a FAFSA day. What we'll do is set up an opportunity in those schools, working with the guidance counselors and the parent support specialists, and we'll usually meet in the library, and the whole day we'll have seniors coming through filling out the FAFSA and calling the parents or bringing the information to make sure we get all that information done and get the FAFSA done so that they would have a greater opportunity to take advantage of the opportunities that FAFSA application will do for them. We also expose them to the private grants that they may qualify for various reasons. They may qualify for a private grant. There's a lot of private granting organizations that focus on minorities or low-income families, or scholarships for first-generation college students. So those private grants have special emphasis, and we try to expose them to how to pursue those grants as well. And then we talk to them about what to look for in the award letters. Once they make application, and if whatever they're awarded, we talk to them about the importance of really reading and understanding and what to look for in that award letter, so they would be better equipped to decide whether they want to accept, because they may get several award letters from various colleges, and they want to take the best case scenario and look at what's best for them. And then we got a list of resources here that any student can take this list of resources, excuse me, and go through it and find what's best for them and what may be interesting to them that they could pursue. And being the technology world that we live in, just a click of a mouse and to taking time to read and to go through this process and looking at what is best for them, that would give them an opportunity to make decisions and find what they may be interested in. And last but not least, we talk to them in detail about the apprenticeship programs, the vocational trades that everybody's not suited necessarily or may not be interested in college necessarily, but the trades and the apprenticeship programs is very interesting and very lucrative if you get interested and pursue those 1 to 2 year programs that will better equip you to learn a skill or a trade that will pay you while you're learning, but after you graduate or get a certificate in that trade, it will pay you even much higher wages and even give you an opportunity to pursue a career in that particular area. So what we've tried to do is put together a resource guide that will help these individuals realize that they have an opportunity. They have the potential to pursue whatever dreams and goals that they are interested in, and even not having the proper support system. Everybody got a different support system. Some support systems are stronger and better than others. And then some of these students don't have a support system at all. And this resource guide that we've put together will help that individual see that in spite of lack of resources, lack of support systems, that there's still a pathway to success and a pathway to having an opportunity to pursue their dreams and their goals as it relates to upward mobility with the mayor's vision of economic mobility for all the citizens in Chattanooga. This helps us get to started working with the high school graduates on an earlier basis for them to pursue their dreams and their goals. The schools are very open to it. They know that we come to help. We're not in the education business, but we are, because all the children that's in education belongs to us. All of us should be doing what we can to help each one of them pursue their goals and aspirations. So that's our latest project in terms of, and this is the time we're in the schools because those FAFSAs need to be done by the end of February is what we're targeting. And our team and staff is not only in the schools, but we'll be having ACT fairs at our centers, and also working with the schools in terms of helping these students get their work, get these FAFSAs done, and pursuing higher education for economic mobility as we move forward. So I'll stop there and entertain any questions or concerns that you may have concerning this project.
Thank you, Coach, for the presentation. Councilman Gilbert.
Thank you, Chair. Coach, this is a wonderful program that you are providing for these kids. It means a lot because, as you know, some kids go through the cracks and they want to have the desire to go, but some of the parents don't know what to do to get them to that level. But I do want to add one thing. I had 3 people in college, and if they did not keep their documentation of communication between the college and themselves, all 3 of them had to repeat a semester, but by them keeping their documents, they was able to show the school, this is what we got, this is what you said, and then went forward. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage any kid to go to college, keep all communications in your file so that if the school loses something, which they do, then you will have something to fall back on.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for that. We'll put emphasis on that as we talk to the students.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ron, I would say you're right with one regard as far as education, but the exception that we're not in the school business, but we are definitely in the education business. So thank you very much for everything that we can do in regards to that. It's an argument I have many times with some of our colleagues at the county.
Yes, sir.
That try to tell us that we're not in the school business. That is an accurate statement. Not being in the education business is completely inaccurate. So I want to make that very clear. I have a question. What is the availability of this guide, and how do people, how do kids get it? How is it dispersed? How many do we have? Is this a print on demand? Is this an online thing?
At this particular time, we have focuses on the 2 opportunity zone high schools. Brainerd, it's about 135 students at Brainerd graduating this year and 201 at Howard. So those students, this will be put in their hands to the guidance counselors and the teachers and so forth, but not limited to those schools. Any other schools, we have additional copies and opportunities for other schools to get, but we do have a limited budget for processing that.
Okay, so we're just going to kind of test it with these two schools and see what feedback we may get to see if funding is available to extend it to other schools then? Is that the plan?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
at some point, yes.
All right.
That would be our desire to make it available.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Chair. Coach, so help me understand, I think maybe what I just heard is basically what we're doing is providing guidance counselors with a pamphlet or with this information. Or are we actually going there, sitting down, spending time with these students, helping them with some of the applications that they have to fill out?
Both. We
Okay.
work with the guidance counselors, the parent specialists, and the principals, but we do have opportunities where we sit down with those students, and our team is in the schools helping them fill out those applications as well.
How many folks we have involved doing that?
Probably about 5, as
Okay.
far as it going to the schools.
And when do we start the process of going into the schools and helping
We'll be
them?
starting that the 1st of February.
Okay, is there possibility we can start sooner because many of the applications have essays and things tied to them that need to be prepared ahead of time so that these students, when the deadline hits, they're able to submit these things. The other question that I have, if we could expand the program to start including juniors, because there's definitely things that they need to start preparing for that they can begin doing that will certainly help their chances of getting scholarships along the way.
Yes, sir. We can definitely pursue that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Coach, I think this is an excellent program that you're implementing. I have, wait 1 second. I didn't see you. Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair, but I just has to do with something else.
Where'd it go? Did you turn it?
This is an appointment I have, not having to do this presentation, so
Oh, okay.
recognize me whenever you'd like. I just want to happen before we go into that conference.
Okay, thank you. Coach, but I do got just a couple of questions, because I know
Yes.
how important people's information is, like their Social Security, W-2 forms, and those kind of things. So when you're interacting with the kids, or the parents on site?
Oh, yeah,
Or
the
would
parents, we make phone calls to the parents when we're there at the schools. Parents are definitely involved in the whole process. We can't do anything with those students without parental consent. So the guidance counselors or the librarian, whoever the principal has assigned to work with the group of people that are there, that we're making those contacts with parents and making sure that they have given their consent to the process.
Okay, great, that's awesome. And then the days that you're doing the ACT fairs at the recreation centers, do you have like a date when you begin to do the ACT?
Each center is responsible for that. I don't have those dates in top of my head, but we can find out when those fairs for those centers that is designated to have those fairs, when they're having them, we can let you know.
Okay. And also, can council get a copy of the brochure to
Yes.
to hand out to a couple of people in the neighborhood
Yes.
that we may know? Now, the staff that's going out to the schools, Brainerd and Howard, now, are they already working in the schools, or was it already a position created to staff them in the schools, or is this something new
We have relationships with those schools. I'll give you an example. I'm in the schools. Jason is in the schools a lot, working with at Don Jenkins, who's now working with HR, who's a former employee with YFD, and we're collaborating. It's a collaboration and partnership with HR. He's in the schools.
Okay.
And Gary Rudolph, of course, you all know him. He's constantly recruiting students in those schools for the CAP program. So we have strong partnerships and relationships with those schools, and usually whatever we bring to the table, those principals and guidance counselors and teachers know that we're there just to help, make ourselves available to help in any way we can. And when we come up with ideas like this, it's just icing on the cake for what they're trying to do, and know that it's just to assist them and helping them have a stronger support system for those children who may fall through the cracks.
Right, absolutely. I think that's great, Coach. Great. And then also, just a couple of questions outside of what you presented here. It come up a couple of times about the security cameras. Have the security cameras all been installed at our YFD centers?
To my knowledge, they have. I don't know of a center that has not, that don't have security cameras.
Okay.
So as far as I know, the plan has been executed, and I think IT and everybody has worked well together to make sure that that was done. Unless there's something I'm missing.
Just to fill you in on that, yes, every camera that we've set out to put in all YFD centers, all done as of 2018.
Okay. Now, just so we can check that off our list,
Thank you.
that security cameras all have been implemented in our YFD centers. Second question, Coach. The process with Office of Family Empowerment, if someone goes and visits and asks for help, what's the process after they've been approved from your Office of Family Empowerment to get the payment? Does it go to purchasing or someone else after that to approve for it to get paid? Had some folks call about, their bills aren't getting paid till 2-3 months later. Is that the normal process? Is that?
Well, it's a lot of variables that go into that, because sometimes people tell you things that's not necessarily true. If everything is working the way it's supposed to, and they've provided all of the paperwork that they were supposed to provide, and they've qualified, and we send the information to purchasing, and that is done, it should be a pretty quick process.
Okay.
And we'll be in touch with, if that person's qualified, and we're in touch with the landlord or in touch with EPB, who we have a personal relationship with, we'll let them know that we have intervened and this person qualified. It's just a matter of time, okay, before we can pay them to make sure that everything's okay. But there are times that people don't complete the whole process.
Right.
They don't do everything that they're supposed to do to get us the information that they need. That slows the process down, and it shuts the process down, and there's very little that we can do for them because of federal regulations that we have to comply by. And then that may be the issue. But if everything is clicking and working, they're doing what they're supposed to do, our process in getting it done, even if it's nothing but a phone call to say to EPB, this person qualify, we're going to take care of the bill, they back off and say the city of Chattanooga stepped in and they're in good shape. So that's the kind of relationship we got. But usually it's because people are not following up, providing everything they need to provide, and that shuts the process down.
Right, absolutely, Coach. Well, those are the only other additional things that I had that was brought to my attention I wanted to address. Thank you so much for all the great things that you're doing with YFD and the awesome things that you're implementing to make sure that our children are successful. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Council, for all your work.
You're welcome. Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to have an appointment for the YFD board, and I of her resume in your folder if you have any questions. But as of today, Stephanie Rogers will be a member of the YFD board. Thank you.
Yes, great. I read her resume. I think she'll fit right on in. Thank you. Now we'll adjourn from Youth and Family Development to Economic Community Development.
Welcome to Economic and Community Development. Move to approve the minutes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're gonna start off with 7A, under Economic and Resolutions, under Economic and Community Development. So clerk, if you could start off reading 7A for me, ma'am, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease agreement in substantially the form attached with the Hamilton County, Tennessee Board of Education for a portion of tax parcel number 126LC001 for a term of 1 year at the consideration of $2 to allow for the demolition and removal of the manufactured unit and other items located on the premises located at 1510 Hamilton Avenue.
Okay, seeing no questions, 7B.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a premises use agreement with Connect Leadership Foundation in substantially the form attached for the use of athletic fields located at 6862 Tie High Drive on a portion of tax parcel number 139IB001 for a term of 4 years.
Seeing no questions, 7C.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease agreement in substantially the form attached with the Hamilton County, Tennessee Board of Education for the use of a tax portion of parcel number 168IC032 for the operation of the Cedar Hill Head Start Early Head Start program located at 4701 Divine Street for a term of 1 year, with the option to renew for 3 additional terms of 1 year each for the amount of $1 per term.
Okay. 7D, please.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease agreement and substantially the form attached with the Hamilton County, Tennessee Board of Education for the use of tax parcel numbers 136LM002, 136LM005, and 136LM006 for the operation of the Avondale Head Start Early Head Start program located at 2302 Ocoee Street for a term of 1 year with the option to renew for 3 additional terms of 1 year each for the amount of $1 per term.
7E.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease agreement in substantially the form attached with the Hamilton County, Tennessee Board of Education for the use of a portion of tax parcel number 066MD014 for the operation of the Daisy Head Start Early Head Start program located at 9517 West Ridge Trail Road in Soddy Daisy, Tennessee, for a term of 1 year with the option to renew for 3 additional terms of 1 year each for the amount of $1 per term.
7F.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Economic and Community Development to enter into an artwork creation agreement with the artist Brandon Donahue to provide services for a community-informed mural on the Brainerd YFD Center for an amount not to exceed $30,000.
Thank you so much. We're going to go to next week, Tuesday, January 21st, 2020, resolutions. This will be some short-term vacation rentals that are on the agenda. 7A.
A resolution authorizing, a resolution approving short-term vacation rental application number 19STVR00128 for property located at 721 Broad Street, unit number 1204.
Anything? All right. 7B.
A resolution approving short-term vacation rental application number 19STVR00129 for property located at 721 Broad Street, Unit 212.
Yes, sir. 7C.
A resolution approving short-term vacation rental application number 19STVR00168 for property located at 3201 East 36th Street.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chair. Now we will move on. That will be the end of that agenda. We will move on to Public Arts Annual Report. How are you doing, ma'am? Can't wait to hear this. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and Councilmen and Councilwomen. It's a privilege to be here this afternoon. I'm not here very often unless we have something on agenda, so I'm excited to show you what we've been up to. It's always wonderful to see you all at our dedications, but if you don't make it to one or you don't live in the neighborhood where we have something going on, I'm sure it's hard to keep track of where public art is going and what we're doing. But I am going to show you what we've been up to. I want to recognize that our annual report, we're really presenting our work plan, and our work plan is voted on by the Public Art Commission in April, just before the budget comes before council, and those dollars are approved. So you're going to see 2020 through 2022, because public art projects tend to extend over multiple years, especially if they're tied to a capital construction or a major construction project. So you'll see projects that will be initiated in the coming year or that we have completed in the past year. So we're doing more than just a one-year report, but to try to give you a glimpse of everything that is currently on our books. And just to remind you, the Chattanooga Public Art Commission supports our work. Their meetings are in the City Council conference room every third Thursday of every other month. And those meetings are open to the public if anyone is interested in sitting in on those. There's always really interesting dialogue and discussion. I also want to recognize Kat Wright, who is my other team member. We are a big office of two, and we have lots of balls in the air that we manage to keep juggling. So if you see us and we look like deers in headlights or just continue walking really fast, it's because we have a lot of work to keep moving between the two of us. But she's a great help, and we get a lot done together. The last time we were here was in February of last year, presenting the 2019 Public Art Strategic Plan. So much of what you'll see is tied to that. We are sort of finishing off other projects, but going forward, we're really responding to what we heard from over 650 participants in that public engagement process, where we really heard from the community about what they'd like to see going forward with public art in Chattanooga. And from that plan, we established some guiding principles for public art. So public art builds an authentic city. This is really tied to, as Chattanooga changes and grows and we continue to develop, we want to see authentic public places that represent our culture, our character, and our values. And that's going to look very different in different places across the city. Public art preserves the character of our neighborhoods. So we're not just introducing or giving access to high quality art in neighborhoods. We're working with communities to understand what it is about their neighborhood that they want to preserve and highlight, so that we're not stripping away the character of our neighborhoods, but that we're really highlighting and accentuating that. Public art collaborates to create vibrant public spaces. This is very much a part of the tradition of public art in Chattanooga. It's big partnerships across disciplines, the private and public sector working together to make our public spaces more vibrant for all. And public art provides equal access to the arts. So at a very basic level, having art outdoors, in nature, in public spaces, this provides the opportunity for anyone to have an artistic experience. More and more, as we develop our programs and projects, we're striving for deeper engagement with communities, to give them more representation, voices that haven't been heard, being part of the process, so that this really is an equal opportunity. And then public art values the artist and the creative process. Sometimes we forget who it is behind these beautiful pieces of art that show up in our communities, but they are people. They are visionaries. They use art to go beyond words and allow people to connect and really come together along in that process of creating a vision for these pieces. So you'll see the projects that we're implementing really tying back to these guiding principles, and you'll see that in some of our key programs that we can really talk about now. And as we start to initiate projects, you'll see them tying back to these themes. Art and Capital. This is a new program as of last year's fiscal year 20, when we really took a step forward in our budgeting process to align public art projects with projects on the city's capital plan. So really looking forward to the 5-year capital plan, trying to get artists involved in early as possible in the planning process so that we end up with spaces that integrate the arts and really reflect the diversity and character of our community. And the 21st Century Waterfront Project is an example of the first time our city utilized that method, and I'm really excited that we are carrying that tradition forward as we build new projects in the city. Art in Neighborhoods, this has been a program of our office since 2006, and that has continued to evolve as we've worked with different communities around the city. This was relaunched in 2015, and 6 neighborhoods were granted public art projects, and we've been working with those communities over the past few years to implement those projects. We've now implemented 4 of the 6 that were granted in 2016. So that just shows you these projects do take time, especially when we're working in neighborhoods. We're really striving for deep engagement, connecting the artists with those communities, ensuring that these projects really reflect those places. Civic design and placemaking. This again builds on our history of collaboration and partnerships. So we will continue to see the private sector coming in to fund and support these projects, and we're always advocating for them to incorporate artists in their work and continue this work themselves. And then coming soon, this is really a direct result of the strategic plan and what we heard from the local artist community, more opportunities for local artists to get involved in working in community and creating art. So we will be launching in February a group of creative strategists. So these are local artists across disciplines, performing, visual, spoken word. These are artists that can use their creative practice to engage communities. So, Kat and I can go into a neighborhood and start talking about what people might like to see, but that engagement can really only go so far. Our time is limited. These artists that live in our city and want to utilize their creative skills can go in and really establish relationships and form bonds that we wouldn't be able to. And that goes also into sort of transforming that input process. We might have a neighborhood meeting where people could raise hands and voice opinions, but the artists can go in and do creative mural making projects or installations, temporary installations or performances where they're getting ideas and stories from these residents that wouldn't have come out in a standard process. So we're really excited about that. Those creative strategists would be involved through the life of the project, ensuring that these communities' interests are represented and that we're really getting to an authentic public art project that serves the community. We'll also see CDOT with an artist in resident coming up in the next few months, and that's really to look at their projects and systems and take on creative approaches to their work. And then the public library has, this past year, piloted the work of having an artist in resident to host workshops there, and then they will be launching that in the summer for a second time for artists to apply for that residency program. So this again is going back to really providing equal access to the arts and more than just what we present in the public spaces, but creating opportunities for people to engage in art making. So a quick review of what we have finished up in the last year or so. Probably the biggest on that list is Wreath of Honor. So this was huge to finish this up. It had been 3 years ago that this project was initiated in the planning to recognize our fallen servicemen that we lost on July 16th, 2015. This was by Shane Albritton and Norman Lee. And just some pictures of that dedication event on October 19th. We had pouring rain, but a packed house, and all the families in attendance along with the military at this event. So it was a really special and moving dedication for the community and the families of our 5 fallen. So if you haven't been out to the river park to see this, I highly suggest it. It's a really special place along the river there. And we don't often get direct feedback from constituents or people, but we did receive a really kind note from Sue and Tom Holmquist, who are the parents of Carson Allen Holmquist. And they said, there are no words to convey the gratitude for all the love and hard work that everyone put into this memorial. It was amazing to see. It brought a little peace to our daily chaos. We cannot thank you enough for such a wonderful job. So, I think that's what public art is all about, bringing peace or joy or contemplation to the daily chaos that we all experience in some form or fashion, and it's always wonderful to sort of you intuit that, but to have people also sort of for that to resonate with people and hear that is really rewarding. And in December, we finished up an Art in Neighborhoods project with the Highland Park community called Repeat, and that is inspired by a roaming peacock that takes its home in the Highland Park community. And the artist, in his visits and sessions with community members, noticed these stories being shared about Pete, and then it didn't matter sort of where you lived in the neighborhood, how old you were, or what your background, everybody sort of was able to exchange these funny stories and have a laugh and connect over Pete the Peacock. So this is not an actual peacock, but certainly a tribute to Pete and a nice new focal point for Tatum Park as a place to gather and play. It's amazing to see kids, how they understand how to interact with public art. Not long after this was finished and being installed, I came up and there were 2 kids, and they were like, wow, this castle is here just for us, and like, I can't believe we have a castle in our park, and so it's just fun to see how kids can interpret these projects themselves. This was in the Shepherd neighborhood. We actually had 2 bus wraps for, these are shelters for school bus children who are waiting for the bus in these neighborhoods. So they proposed this project. This bus shelter was existing, so we just did the vinyl wrap on it, and then this was actually a brand new shelter that they requested, and we had installed, as well as the artwork put in there. And then again, as I said, we're always advocating within the community with other organizations to support artists being involved in other projects. So these are some recently completed projects that we consulted on and provided resources for our nonprofit partners. So River City Company, this is in Cooper's Alley, City Thread. And this project has won a number of awards this past year, being recognized for excellence in design, but also I think people are really responding to this project because of how it totally animates this alleyway, and that River City Company has done an amazing job bringing in programming and continuing to activate it. The city has always done a biannual sculpture exhibition that rotates through the downtown. We have shifted over into a partnership for that with the Mid-South Sculpture Alliance. So they're able to fill some of those very obvious pedestals that sort of sit through our riverfront corridor and program a temporary exhibition for 2 years that goes into those spaces. So you've probably seen the site across from Veterans Bridge as well as others along the riverfront. But this is a first in our history, a Women in Sculpture exhibition. So all the sculptors featured in this exhibition are women. And of all of our rotating, we've had many years of rotating exhibitions on Main Street and First Street. I'd say you might have 1 or 2 women featured amongst those, but this is 6 all women artists, which is pretty exciting. And those are some pretty amazing pieces scattered along the Riverwalk and throughout downtown. River City Company also put out a call to wrap our city's traffic cabinet boxes. So this was a partnership with CDOT and ourselves, but this was limited to local artists only. So we've got all the downtown boxes that you see out and about are by local artists, and greatly enhance those kind of utilitarian silver boxes. In tandem with that, we had Art Spark Goes to School. This was actually EPB who decided they wanted to wrap some of their boxes as well. And they did a different format where they partnered with the Southeast Center for Education and the Arts, as well as a number of other partners in Hamilton County Schools, to bring a curriculum into art classes where students could go through their own public art process to design, vote on the top designs, and then have those selected by a selection panel to be featured on 5 boxes in the downtown area. Really very impressive work by these high school art students from Chattanooga High Center for Creative Arts, Hickson High, and Howard School. And then Life Energy, this is another partner with partnership with Mark Making. You'll see these boxes in East Chattanooga on Wilcox Boulevard. And this Mark Making has programming where they go in and have students create art addressing, this is addressing social concerns and issues where they're talking about both connecting the circuitry of the box to sort of the decision-making process, as well as sort of how to make change in your community. So basically, they charted out sort of an issue in their community and then a response. And then these were turned into these abstract designs that were then enlarged and put on the boxes. So you had 6 student artists that created these works, and working with Orchard Knob Middle School, Brainerd, Howard, and Hickson High School. And actually, all 3 of these programs will be relaunching for their second round this coming year. So you'll see more boxes being wrapped. And we have also partnered with them to encourage both the professional boxes being in more neighborhoods, as well as the students' Mark Making works being in downtown areas. So there's a little more mix of artworks around the city.
Excuse me 1 second. Would you like to ask your question now, Councilman, or you want to wait? Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And then these are our projects that you may have heard of that are still in progress and planning, so they're not yet complete, but in process. We are working closely with CDOT. We were able to get an artist on board early in the planning to have artwork fall in line with the design of Patton Parkway. So when that project's complete, we'll have a piece called Radiance and integrated with that. There is a project being planned at the Wheelan Family Trailhead. We've been working with artist Mark Forns on that project. We're in a bit of a hold on that right now, as there's been and he basically has proposed a new design that has to go back to the selection panel, and we're kind of working through whether that new design would move forward or not. Next up, and what is on today's agenda, is our Art in Neighborhoods project with Woodmore Manor. So you'll see the contract with artist Brandon Donahue. And this is a mural. We're really targeting that odd silo shaped feature of the building for sort of an iconic mural that would be accentuated by that unusual shape. The residents really wanted to see something that would draw people in from the street. After talking with the YFD Center facilities manager, he was really excited because he can't tell you how often people say, like, oh, I never knew this YFD Center was here. Like, it's just sort of tucked off the road. So he was excited about having something that would really make its presence known there on the side of the building. So that will be the next project that you see kind of coming down the pike. And then we've got an RFP teed up for our Art in Neighborhoods project on MLK to animate the underpass here. So you've already got sort of an artwork by Mark making on the side of that, but this would be bringing light and color to the street below, so that it feels like a much more welcoming and safe space to pass under. And then East Lake, we initiated our work, our creative strategist work through engaging communities through the arts with Ella Chattanooga this past year. So they spent about 6 months doing creative projects as well as getting input from East Chattanooga residents. We had decided to allocate dollars to East Lake because of the number of capital projects happening. We felt like this would be a great opportunity for artists, for the community to be reflected in these public spaces. And so 2 projects were identified through that planning process with the community. You'll see the boards up above with the kids. They put triangles on different public art project examples of sort of what they responded most to. And these colorful functional seats down to the bottom left were the most favorite. So they really responded strongly to functional art. They wanted something that they could sit on, that would provide shade and comfort and color. So we won't be getting exactly that, but that's sort of the inspiration for what we'll be looking to do in East Lake Park. And then the other was examples of really colorful basketball court design. So artistic integration with a basketball court design. And we have the opportunity with the new YFD Center being built and a new basketball court going in to try to leverage those dollars and get an artist in to design that floor layout. So that's kind of fun, and just shows you kind of, what types of projects might come out of that type of engagement, where we can kind of move beyond just murals and sculptures to really understanding what the community needs are and doing something really fun and creative that fits what they have in mind. And then the Ed Johnson Memorial and the First Street redesign are both partnership projects. Ed Johnson being led by the Ed Johnson Committee and First Street by River City Company. Both those projects are tied to city bid processes for Walnut Plaza. And so those are in progress, but kind of being following along with those timelines for First Street and Walnut Plaza. But they are gradually moving forward. And then just to tell you about our fiscal year 20 art and capital projects that were identified through last year's budget. What we've identified from our strategic plan as priority projects for art and capital are public service buildings, parks, greenways, and major transportation corridors. So when the departments are submitting their capital projects for the Capital Review Committee, we're also looking at highlighting those types of projects and then taking those to the commission to consider which ones might be considered for art and capital. And last year, Avondale YFD Center was sort of an add-on, but a need because we had a beautiful new center and a very prominent space that was set out for a mural. So that was one of our art and capital projects. Lynbrook Park in the Oak Grove neighborhood. Woodmore Safe Routes to School in the Woodmore neighborhood. Chattown Skate Park, which is to be determined where that will be located. The Washington Hills YFD Center and a potential new satellite services facility. So these are the projects that we are also looking at embarking creative strategists with. So as we begin planning with the various city departments, we also have a local artist working to help form that engagement plan to bring communities in and inform what the art may look like in these future capital projects. So just sort of a year in review, our little office hosted 63 engagement activities. So when we say engagement activity, we're referring to our touch points with the community. That could be through a selection panel, a tour that we've given, a neighborhood association meeting we've attended. There's just a lot of different, dedication, there's a lot of different points at which we're sort of engaging, either sharing about our work or getting input from the community on our work. And then we now have a permanent collection of 104 artworks, and we know more about that collection now than we ever have. We just completed a complete assessment of the collection by a conservator, so we know the condition of every piece and what maintenance needs we need to consider going forward. So we will be presenting that in February to the Public Art Commission and are happy to share that full report once we have that. And this is just a shot of our map where we have public art located in the city. So the blue dots are our permanent collection, the purple dots are our temporary artworks, the red dots are recently completed projects, the orange dots are in progress, and the yellow dots are in planning. So you can see those efforts to sort of expand public art from the downtown footprint into more neighborhoods. We're really tracking on that, and if anyone says, well, public art's only located downtown, you can tell them it's not true. It's actually a lot of places, and 26 different neighborhoods is where we currently have public art happening. So if you have an idea for a public art project in your neighborhood or your constituents have ideas, there is a channel for getting that to us. It is through Neighbor Roots. So we are currently channeling sort of art in neighborhoods through the Neighbor Roots initiative, and we'll be looking at awarding one project per year through this. So residents can go in and submit their idea for a public art project. With Neighbor Roots, we are looking for that to be tied to neighborhood history. So if it's an individual person, place, or event that happened in a particular neighborhood, we want to hear about it and consider it for a public art project. And a lot of this information is on our website. So please visit publicartchattanooga.com. If you have people interested in serving on selection panels, we accept applications on our website for that. We're always looking to diversify who is on our selection panels, and we're also trying to make that neighborhood specific. So we're always broadening that list of people that are serving on selection panels. And are there any questions?
Yes, the awesome presentation. Thank you so much. That was really
You're
nice.
welcome.
That was really nice. She'll be talking to you pretty soon. Councilman Gilbert.
Thank you, Chair. Just making a request that if you're gonna paint any boxes in 5th District, we would like to be like it downtown, not the one in the Elfdale area, okay? It looks so nice downtown.
So nice.
Really nice. Also,
Noted.
also, the artwork you're gonna do on Brainerd, this might not be for you, might be for Mara or Tony. I hope that we will wash the metal coming down before we put that mural up, because it is pretty dirty.
Yes, we've talked to Public Works about that, so they will be, there's a couple of those. There's one there, and then there's another one that's in need of repair. They are going to address both of those before we paint a beautiful new mural on the side.
And we're gonna wash the little side too, since it's really black. It's supposed to be a color.
They're
but it's
going to
kinda-
prime it. We're actually going to prep that surface of the concrete.
I appreciate
pretty
that.
well.
Thank you.
So it'll look really nice.
All right.
You done, Councilman?
For right now, sir.
Yes, sir. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair Russell. So you will know the kids that live in District 5 actually painted those boxes. So thank you to District 5 youth. They were a part of mark making. Thank you. But I just wanted to say, I'm excited to see that the public art is expanding into communities. Back when Peggy Townsend was on staff, when it was just her and there wasn't any funding for public art, and Eastdale and Russell and a couple of us was fighting to get public art into our community of Eastdale, and we reached out to different private funders, and we were told, no, not right now, we're only concentrating downtown. And then, all of a sudden, we began working with Stacy, who pushed to get the public art department here with the city of Chattanooga, and we were able to started seeing art being out in the communities, and to see it to continue to expand out is just a great thing. So I'm most definitely looking forward to the neighborhood associations in District 9 applying through Neighbor Roots and getting other art outside of just what's on the Wilcox Tunnel. Some street art that can really talk about the history of the community leading up to District 6 all the way out. And most definitely that'll draw traffic. People want to stop, people want to invest, those kind of things.
Great.
Art is beautiful. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Gilbert.
The kids that you did the art over there, don't let them do art in 5th District again. We want some people downtown stuff do beautiful art they had down there. Thank you.
They are serious about art projects. I love it. Councilman Darren Leffert.
Thank you, Chairman. Couple of quick questions. Love the wrapping of the traffic boxes. Every time I see one, I go right on. That's great. Do we work with local companies in any kind of relationship for the wrapping material? Obviously, that's my business, so I can't do it, but for obvious reasons. But
Yeah, we do.
we do work with
Well,
locally.
River City is, and Mark Maker are handling those contracts, but they do work with local companies.
Very good. And those, knowing that material very well, they do have a lifespan on them. So what is the replacement time frame, other than, oh, wow, that's really looking bad? Because once it starts to go, it goes rather quickly.
Right, so those are all temporary projects. So we have temporary exhibition agreements on them, which are for 2 years, and then at that point, they're assessed. So they could be renewed, I think 5 to 7 years is the lifespan on
It depends
on the
weather.
material.
Yeah.
But we're assessing that, and then if they're not in a great condition, they would be removed.
Okay. Do they, companies that we work with locally, do they also handle the installation? Because when I'm looking at them, I'm seeing some really good work there.
They do, yes.
Yeah, very good. Okay, thank you. Good stuff.
Thank you, Councilman. I seen where the Avondale project, I think it showed complete. So the vinyl that's on there is the completed project?
No, so the building, with the capital ones, we were saying status of the capital project.
Gotcha.
So the building is complete. We are about to put out an RFP for that specific project. It should be the next month or so that'll go out.
Thank you so much, and what an awesome presentation. And seeing no more questions, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your support.
Yes, ma'am. At this time, we will go into predatory lending. to get some information about this subject. Councilwoman Coonrod brought this up last week in our strategic planning session. So I'm I know that you have talked to Joda and yourself have got some information and some things that you wanted to tell us about. So is it something you would like to start off saying, Councilwoman? You'll hit your button. Thank you. There we go.
You got it. Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to acknowledge Joda is here. If anybody, I spoke with the city attorney about if he could come up and present, talk about the importance of it.
Okay.
The why we're here.
All right. Well, thank you for getting us here, Councilwoman. And Joda, the mic is yours.
Sure. Thank you guys so much. I am excited to be here. So I'm going to go ahead and pass out some copies of a study that the organization that I work for, Metro Ideas Project, did in 2018. I'll go ahead and do that. One of them has malfunctioning staples, so just be careful. So I just want to review a couple of things, and I'm going to open it up for questions, but I'm going to kind of go over the concept of predatory lending and what it is that we're talking about when we say that phrase and what the state of it is in Tennessee, in Chattanooga. But again, my name is Joda Tongnapnoa. I'm the executive director at Metro Ideas Project, which is an urban policy research organization. And earlier in 2018, the beginning of 2018, we did a study focused on predatory lending in our state. And this actually also followed up on the heels of some research that came out of the Mayor's Council of Women, and Councilwoman Burrs was present in discussing a lot of that. But a couple of things that I think are important. Tennessee has the highest number of predatory lending locations in the nation. And when I talk about predatory lending, I'm using a very specific criteria for that. And it's actually what consumer advocacy organizations have used as a threshold. So if you're charging over 45% interest APR, that is what the FBI actually uses as an evidentiary requirement or an evidentiary standard for extortion. And so we applied that as we were looking at different kinds of lenders, legal or not, for whether or not predatory lending was present. And when we looked at those locations, that encompasses everybody from payday lenders, which is actually the most common type, but also title lenders, flex credit lenders, and a couple of other types of financial institutions that are permitted and regulated under both federal law as well as Tennessee financial law. There are over 1,200 predatory lending locations across 89 of Tennessee's 95 counties. That means that there are more predatory lending locations in Tennessee than Walmart's and McDonald's combined, which is a pretty staggering number. Shelby County leads the state with over 232 brick and mortar predatory lending locations in the county. Hamilton County is the third highest with over 70 brick and mortar locations in the county. And then it's also in the top 10 by whenever you look at it per capita, with over 20 locations per 100,000 residents. And a couple of things about predatory lending, particularly payday lending in specific. Predatory lending is often thought about as an emergency loan, but it's more typically used for bills. Most people, when they get a payday loan, they take it out again within 2 weeks. About 80% of customers take another payday loan out within 2 weeks of getting one. Traditionally, the folks who have used payday loans and relied on them are the unbanked and the underbanked. One thing to note here is that the national average for underbanked people is around 7%, but here in Chattanooga, it's a little over 20%. People without four-year college degrees, home renters, people of color, and those earning below $40,000 a year are more likely to have used a payday loan. And contrary to the industry's advertising, 7 in 10 borrowers, like I said, use them for regularly recurring expenses as opposed to unexpected or emergency costs. Predatory lending as a business model, and this is important, relies on the idea of keeping people in debt. So the industry doesn't typically make money off of one loan. They make money off of a series of loans. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau finds that 80% of those loans are taken out again within 2 weeks of repayment. And then it also concentrates in areas of financial distress, putting their locations around bus stops and in neighborhoods of poverty. The average payday loan borrower is in debt for about 5 months out of the year, and to that lender. So these are not short-term loans that are advertised as, you get it and then you repay it back as soon as your employer deposits money back in your checking account. They typically rotate. And an average consumer of one of these loans will spend about $520 in fees to repeatedly borrow about $375. So the amount of money is pretty staggering. The APR cap, which I think we're going to probably get into today, in Tennessee is amongst the highest in the nation. It's at 459% APR. This is substantially higher than the usury limit set by the Tennessee Constitution, and it's also substantially higher than almost every other financial product available in the United States today. According to the Pew Research Center's Small Dollar Loans Research Project, payday loans are available in 36 states with an average APR of about 391%. And like I said, in contrast, Tennessee offers a much higher rate. And Tennessee's regulatory environment at the state level is substantially laxer. And unlike other industries, you would expect if you saw higher concentrations of payday lenders, there would be price competition, but that is not the case. Almost every payday lender in Tennessee charges the exact same price, which is the cap allowed by law. So we don't see that competition is driving down prices, but rather what tends to happen if you want to increase market share, we find that predatory lenders will go ahead and spend more on two things: advertising. They're very aggressive advertisers, and then two, they'll spend more on debt collection tactics, which can be quite aggressive, not only calling the individual in question, but calling their family members, calling their employers, and calling their friends. So that's a quick, I'd say, overview of the state of predatory lending in Tennessee and here in Hamilton County. The concentration of payday lenders in Hamilton County tend to be concentrated in communities where you have folks earning below $40,000, but also they're in some of our municipalities as well. Other than Chattanooga, there's a high concentration in East Ridge, but also high concentrations in District 6, 5, and 9. So those are going to be where you'll see most of those predatory lending locations. And again, there are 71 brick and mortar locations here in Hamilton County. I'll stop there and take any questions you might have. Again, the research and data was based off of permitting data from the Tennessee Department of Financial Institutions, and that data was collected at the end of 2017. So there may be some variation, but I don't expect a ton of closures or openings since then.
Okay, Councilwoman Burrs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Joda, one of the big problems we ran into is its preemptive legislation
That's
with
right.
the legislature, which means there was nothing we could do locally. Councilman Gilbert and I sponsored legislation to handle it through zoning.
Mm-hmm.
And that was about all we could do. The other thing we could do, as Councilwoman Coonrod spoke about last week, is a resolution urging our state legislators to do something about that. The other problem we ran into was that predatory lenders exist because there's a need for somebody to get money, and that
Sure.
there needed to be some discussion. Banks are regulated pretty heavily.
Mm-hmm.
That's why predatory lenders who aren't banks can get away with
Right.
this. But there may be some discussion of community banks or community funds. We've had these discussions
Mm-hmm.
where people don't have to go to predatory lenders, and whoever compiles these funds, whether they be foundations or whatever, certainly aren't going to lose money.
Right.
But at least it won't be that egregious rate. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so you're right. The state law does tend to preempt the city's actions on the terms that payday lenders can set for their products. But there are a couple of things the city can do, and we outline those in the report. One is warning consumers about the dangers of these products. The second is some of the questions that you've thought about permitting and zoning legislation, although that has challenges as well. Particularly, you'll find that predatory lending companies don't tend to push back that hard on those because they lock out competition for those who aren't there. But finally, lending more is an essential part of making sure that people have access to fair lending practices and products in their community. There have been a couple of different communities that have tried some really innovative things. The City of Oakland has a nonprofit payday lender that chooses not to charge the maximum interest rate and actually charges far, far under that, and advertises very much like its competitors that are charging exorbitant interest rates. Other things that are worth noting is that the number one reason people take out a payday loan for the first time is for an unexpected utility bill, being unexpectedly higher than they thought. We have looked at models where utilities themselves offer credit options to be able to absorb some of those unexpected costs. So that's a potential partnership that would be available as well. And then there was something in the past prior to the advent of credit cards called remedial loan funds, where people in their communities could go to essentially philanthropic organizations, and they would serve as the backing for a loan that would charge somewhere in the range of 12 to 20%, which is high, but not quite as high as the 459 allowed by law here in Tennessee. So there are absolutely ways and models to create alternatives for lending. But to your initial point, you're right. The most effective way to handle predatory lending is to set fairer standards by state law. Our legislature that is in their authority, and the city of Memphis has already called on the legislature to consider that in this session. Or I'm sorry, the county of Shelby County, not the city of Memphis. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Darren Leffert.
Thank you, Chairman. Jody, you had an interesting comment just a minute ago about collection policies. What protections do borrowers have, and do the lenders, it seemed like you indicated that they may be able to be more aggressive than say a traditional financial institution. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, so I don't
that?
know all of the consumer rights that that consumers would have access to. I think some of that is listed on the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau's website, and they've bolstered a lot of those policies. What I will say is that in some of our interviews with the consumers who have used these products, and then also with in discussions with other communities that have dealt with these challenges, and particularly the sector, the companies, there hasn't been a ton of scrutiny on the company behaviors. So what you'll frequently find are that companies on an individual basis will exceed and tell consumers things that aren't true in order to try and get them to pay. For example, I interviewed a consumer for like a person who had taken out a payday loan, and she said that she had gotten a phone call from a lender that said that she would be facing jail time if she didn't repay. And so there's nothing to really stop a company from doing something like that unless enforcement were to step up. And I believe that that consumer could report those companies to the Tennessee Department of Financial Institutions, but as you and I know, that the likelihood of that happening is far lower than it should be.
Do you know in your research if when they're applying for the application, do they sign away any of rights, or they sign anything in addition that puts them or their livelihood possessions more at risk than the normal?
Councilman, I'm not certain. I've looked at quite a few of those applications, and I haven't seen anything that would suggest that kind of behavior would be acceptable. Typically, the agreements would be simply that the company would request that you repay it, and then sometimes the company actually has access to your checking account and can simply withdraw automatically on the date of that the money's due back on payday. And sometimes what that results in, actually frequently, is overdraws that continue to push people back into those products.
But that would be a voluntary condition on the
I believe so,
lending
yes.
process,
You would
I
agree to that.
assume.
Mhm.
Great work. Thank you for doing this. I'd like to talk more with you offline sometime.
Absolutely.
We need to get coffee anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Council. Thank you so much. Joe, I was wanting to ask, when you said state of Tennessee has the highest, do we know, where does Chattanooga, not Hamilton County, do we know where Chattanooga falls itself just?
Yeah. So not Hamilton County, but rather Chattanooga. Is that what you asked?
Yes, sir.
I'm not certain how many are outside of the city of Chattanooga. I would say my estimation off the top of my head is 20 or 30 out of the 70 are outside of the city.
Okay.
So it would probably be somewhere in the 40s.
Okay. And have you, I guess you answered that question with the nonprofits to put in place if some type of legislation or something was put forward, nonprofits or churches or some sense can kind of back these loans or help these people out?
So yeah, that has been a discussion at the philanthropic level, and there are also some options available. So credit unions have some small dollar loans that certain customers can qualify for at the $300 to $500 range. C&E offers a small dollar loan that's worth consumers knowing about, but it's not well understood, and they certainly don't have the advertising power of some of these companies. But those are options available. And then I know for a fact that philanthropic organizations in our city, the local foundations, have been interested in being a part of a solution as a funding partner.
Okay. And is there any type of, Councilwoman Coonrod or Joe, is there any type of legislation or any type of criminal offense that's put toward booger bearing? And as a kid, I grew up, you probably don't know about that. So, you know what I'm saying? Like in that community, right. So, where you can go to Mr. Johnson in the community who makes a little more than you, and he charges you $1 or 50 cents on every quarter on $1, yes. Any type of legislation put up?
So it's actually really funny the way that, so it would break usury laws, which is what would be a criminal, like a reason you'd be criminally liable for making an illegal loan in that case. The reason predatory lenders, particularly payday lenders, get around this is that they technically, and I swear this sounds silly, but it's technically not a loan. So deferred presentment is the category of the financial product, and the way they categorize it under state law is that it's not a loan. Rather, what the company does is give you a post-dated check in exchange for evidence that you are going to get paid a similar amount or more at a later date, right? So they say, well, you're not cashing the check until later. We're not cashing your check until later, so it's technically not a loan because you already gave us the money. But if it smells like a loan and talks like a loan and walks like a loan,
it's a loan.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Joe. I think you great information. Definitely, like Councilman Leffert, look forward to talking to you even more about this and more in depth. Councilwoman Coonrod, is there anything you would like to say?
Thank you, Joda, for the presentation. I appreciate it. To the city attorney, I don't know, did you have the opportunity to pass the legislation, email it out to the council?
The resolution.
The resolution.
We talked about last week, and I can send a copy of this, just urging the legislature to develop changes in the law. There are a number of statutory provisions which talk about the limits that can be charged by these companies. That's outside your authority as the council, but it is in the authority of the legislature. And if you want to pass something urging the legislature to look at that, then that would be the resolution.
Absolutely. Thank you. And just so council know, I've already been in talks with Senator Ramesh in Nashville, so she's willing most definitely to carry legislation at the Senate. Haven't spoke with Yusuf Hakeem or anybody on the state level, but we do have somebody that's ready to enact legislation.
Great job. Great work, Councilwoman. And Joda, thank you so much for coming. Seeing that we have no more lights, we are adjourned to 6 o'clock. Thank you.